Welcome to You Can Exhale Now, a mindful living podcast for the modern pace, hosted by Lesia Liu. This podcast is for anyone who wants to get more out of life without the burnout. Because when you learn to take proper care of yourself, you have more energy, a more positive outlook, and more gratitude for life. And because you cannot reach your goals if you're tired, overwhelmed, judgmental, angry, and feel sorry for yourself. Each episode, you will learn actionable strategies for self-care, mental health, productivity, better life-work balance, and happiness from coaches, therapists, and experts. Stop holding your breath. You can exhale now. Choose to be a more authentic version of yourself than you've been in a while. Today, I wanted to discuss with you a subject that might be the most fascinating topic of them all. It is you. The most fascinating subject you can get curious about is yourself. Do you know yourself well? Do you think you know yourself, or do you actually intimately know yourself? What I found about myself and others is that while we assume that we know ourselves, what we really do is replay stories about ourselves. Some of the stories might be negative and self harmful, and some of them might be outright not true or outdated. But do you know what truly drives you? Are you aware of your core values, beliefs, and protection mechanisms? Do you understand why some people rub you the wrong way or why you snap at your family members for no apparent reason? What are your goals and dreams and aspirations? And what are you a natural at? What stories and beliefs stop you from operating at your highest potential? About 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. And oftentimes we run on this autopilot, not only in thoughts, but our actions too. When we feel attacked, our reaction is to attack back. When someone discusses a sensitive topic for us, we might go into attack or contrary, shut down. But are you aware of all the mechanisms that run the show behind the curtains? Why is it that some people have a completely different experience from ours, even after being in the exact same situation? Why is it that we read people's emotions and facial expressions differently than the person that was there as well? Why do we instantly connect with some people? To truly change your behaviors, to truly unlock your potential, you need an in depth understanding of yourself and lots of self awareness. You probably will never know every little thing, every little detail, every little knee jerk reaction we have, but we can try to understand ourselves better. And in that understanding of ourselves, we often understand other people better because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing: to be loved, to be valued, and to be heard. We have different ways to get that, and we use different strategies to get these things, and we have different defense mechanisms when we do not get those things. But this is where awareness of the self and the others can greatly help you. I found that a great first step is taking a few proven personality tests. Wait, before you roll your eyes and skip this episode, let me explain. I know that personality tests sound cheesy. However, there are a good stepping stone to better understand yourself. There are a few tests that have been tested by time, and they can bring a new perspective to your life. I found Myers-briggs and Enneagram to be awfully accurate. Not only did I uncover interesting facts about my behavior and how I present myself to the world, but this test also helped me understand people around me and driving forces behind their behaviors. If you do not believe me, just try it once. You might be surprised at what you will find out. If anything, it helped me to say, hey, yeah, I do that, and here are potential reasons why I behave the way I do. I am not saying that they are completely accurate, but those inaccuracies might also point you in the direction of your unique strengths and personality quirks. Now, treat these two tests as a stepping stone. Do not identify with these types as a universal truth. Do not look for excuses like, Yeah, I can be an asshole, but that is because I am this type of a person. No. If anything, this test should help you identify areas of growth. Maybe they will help you identify unhealthy tendencies, but we will get into that in a little bit. So let's get into it. Sociotypes have been developed by the famous Swiss psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung. According to his theory, there are 16 of these types, and any person can be attributed to one of them. These types are the result of various combinations of mental functions, is what he called it. According to Jung, they represent the characteristics of individual mental processes, which in combination make it possible to describe various personality types. Based on his practical experience, Jung singled out and outlined the following characteristics, such as thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. In the 1920s, Jung's theory was noticed by Catherine Cook-Briggs, who later co-authored a personality indicator still used today, the Myers-briggs type indicator. Briggs was a teacher with an avid interest in personality typing, having developed her own type theory before learning of Jung's writing. Together with her daughter, Isabel Briggs Myers, they developed a convenient way to describe the order of each person's preferences. This is how four-letter acronyms were born. So now, when you hear or read people say something like, I am an INTJ or I am an ESTJ, you know what they're referring to. Thinking is a function that, following its own laws, brings the content of representations into a conceptual relationship. Thinking is preoccupied with truth and is based on extraordinary, logical, objective criteria. Feeling is a function that gives the content a certain value in the sense of accepting or rejecting it. Feeling is based on value judgments, such as good, bad, beautiful, ugly. Sensation is perception that is accomplished through the senses. And finally, intuition is a function that conveys perception to the subject in an unconscious way. The subject of such a perception can be everything, both external and internal objects, or their combinations. According to Jan, one of these characteristics or functions can be dominant over others, and then the corresponding psychological type is formed: mental, sensual, sensory, or intuitive. Another characteristic highlighted by John was a psychological attitude, which can be extroverted or introverted. Assuming that there are no pure extroverts and introverts, Jan believed that each person still has one of these attitudes dominating. And he divided all functions into two classes: rational, that is lying in the realm of the mind, thinking and feeling, and irrational, that is lying outside the mind, such things as sensation and intuition. The dominance of a function requires the suppression of the opposite function, right? So thinking excludes feeling, sensation excludes intuition, and vice versa. Although this simple principle, according to Jan, is far from always being fulfilled. In addition to the dominant function, an auxiliary function of another class can be developed. So, for example, with the dominance of a rational sensory function, an irrational function, sensation or intuition, can be developed in addition to it. And with a dominance of irrational intuition, a rational function, thought or feeling, can be developed. I personally love this test. It gives you a pretty accurate general picture of you in the different surroundings, what type of work you might find fulfilling, what you appreciate in relationships, and so forth. For example, introverted individuals prefer solitary activities and get exhausted by social interaction, right? No surprise there. They tend to be quiet, sensitive to external stimulation in general. But on the other hand, extroverted individuals prefer group activities and get energized by social interaction. They tend to be more enthusiastic and more easily excited than introverts. So that's the first letter of the acronym. Then the second letter, S or N. So S stands for observant. These individuals are highly practical, pragmatic, and down to earth. They tend to have strong habits and focus on what is happening or has already happened. On the other hand, intuitive, the N stands for it, are individuals that are very imaginative, open minded, and curious. They prefer novelty over stability and focus on hidden meanings and future possibilities. The next letter is either T or F. Thinking individuals focus on objectivity and rationality, prioritizing logic over emotions. And they tend to hide their feelings and see efficiency as more important than cooperation. However, feeling individuals are sensitive and emotionally expressive. They are more empathetic and less competitive than thinking types, and focus on social harmony and cooperation. Finally, J or P stands for judging or prospecting. Judging individuals are decisive, thorough, and highly organized. They value clarity, predictability, and closure, preferring structure and planning to spontaneity. Prospecting individuals are very good at improvising and spotting opportunities. They tend to be flexible, relaxed, nonconformists who prefer keeping their options open. Finally, sometimes you will see one more letter at the end following the dash. The identity aspect underpins all others, showing how confident we are in our abilities and decisions. So that letter can either be A or T. So if you see dash A, that means assertive individuals who are self assured, even tempered, and resistant to stress. They refuse to worry too much and do not push themselves too hard when it comes to achieving goals. On the other hand, turbulent T individuals are self conscious and sensitive to stress. They are likely to experience a wide range of emotions and to be success driven, perfectionistic, and eager to improve. By the way, all of this great information and a more in depth explanation of the sociotypes as well as your individual type can be found at 16personalities.com. They have free tests that are scary accurate, so I highly recommend you try them. The other test I highly recommend is the Enneagram. Enneagram of personality, or simply referred to as Enneagram from the Greek ennea meaning nine and gramos figure, is the concept of personality types and the relationship between them. It describes nine what they call deep subconscious drives and their impact on the worldview, mental, emotional, and behavioral strategies of the nine types of people, the so called Ennea types. This model was developed in the 1970s and is mainly based on the work of Oscar Inchasso and Claudio Naranjo. An Enneagram describes nine types of personality located on a circle at an equal distance from each other. Such an image symbolizes the equivalent contribution of each personality type to the creation of a holistic world. Types are interconnected not only by a circle, but also by the so called arrows. The arrows symbolize changes in the behavior of people in a situation of stress and in a situation of psychological comfort. So that's another thing I really like about this test. Now, what you might also hear people say is that I'm a type 1 with wing 2. So, what are the wings, you might ask? Most people that teach Enneagram of personality claim that in people of the same Ennea type, Character traits may differ slightly depending on the influence they have on two neighboring types. So these two types are often called wings. So a person of the third type can have wings in the second and fourth types. The fact that the types of enneagrams are located on a circle may indicate their rather continuum rather than discrete nature of the interaction. So in the enneagram, it is believed that a person has a basic type and may have one or two wings that affect some traits of a character, but do not change the basic type and accordingly its deep motivation. So why it is particularly interesting to look at arrows is because the arrows that connect the types inside the circle give a more complete understanding of the dynamics of the nature of each type. Some authors call them transitions in stress and safety, and sometimes they're referred to as integration and disintegration directions. In the most general sense, to try to explain it briefly, these arrows describe how our reactions and behavior strategies change when we find ourselves in a comfortable, safe environment, or vice versa, in a situation of pressure and stress. So, at least four types have a significant impact on the basic type and motivation of a person: two wings and two arrows. To overwhelm you even further, each personality type has three subtypes or instinctive options. It is believed that a person's subtype depends on which instinctive drive dominates the person's life strategies. Three basic instinctive energies are distinguished in the Enneagram: self preservation instinct, intimacy, and social. The three driving forces in life, right? Depending on the dominant instinct, the person's vital focus is to satisfy either needs related to safety, health, and material well being, thus self preservation, needs related to close relationships with significant people, we can call them sexual or one on one, and needs related to recognition, status, position in society, and membership in groups, thus social needs. It is believed that each person has all three of these drives. However, one of them, as a rule, tends to dominate the others. It will also make sense once you take the test and look at your type. It is quite a lot to explain without the visuals and the specifics. So definitely take a test or two to see the results you get. This will help you bring clarity to the test itself, but also to yourself. This is what I find fascinating about this test and this methodology. One of the significant differences between the teachings of the Enneagram from other personality tests is the concept of levels of development. It is believed that the nature and life strategies of a person of one type or another are not something static. So it accounts for different life situations and stuff like that. Moreover, the level of psychological, social, and interpersonal functioning of a person does not depend on his or her personality type. Being a representative of the same type, a person can live a happy, balanced life, or can be at a fairly low level of psychological and social health. So, for all types of Enneagrams, the so-called levels of development describe the level of intrapersonal and interpersonal functioning of a person. A total of 9 levels of development stand out, which are combined into three large groups: healthy, medium, and unhealthy levels of development. You would want to pay attention to factors that influence the transition down or up those levels. This is what might bring you great levels of self awareness. Not only will you identify where you are in these levels of your type, but you will also be able to see strategies to move up the development levels. So, healthy levels are levels of a person's high functioning. On them, a person has a high degree of awareness, balance, and freedom in choosing life strategies. At healthy levels, a person becomes freer from patterns of his or her type. A person successfully implements special talents and qualities in life and work, and important life needs are met with ease. However, the vast majority of people are at the average levels. At these levels, the focus of a person's lives is to satisfy important needs such as recognition, security, respect, and stuff like that. At middle levels, people manage to fulfill their needs, but most often this is achieved through social roles, struggle, conflict, and unconscious manipulation. At intermediate levels, people can be aware of subconscious motives and track patterns of their type, but they are difficult to resist. First comes the reaction, and then the awareness. Unhealthy levels is an area of clinical personality disorders and mental struggles. At this level, a person is almost completely lacking what is called conscious ego in psychoanalysis. A person is not able to realize and therefore control reactions. Strategies of the type aimed at satisfying its basic deep needs take on really hypertrophied forms. Behavior becomes maladaptive, and such things as anxiety disorders, depression, etc., start to show up. This part of the Enneagram analysis is especially valuable since it allows us to determine the current level of functioning. Enneagram specifically pinpointed my fears and unhealthy tendencies, which helped me become more aware of this and explain some of the behaviors I needed to adjust. And I cannot stress this enough. Learn yourself, understand yourself, nurture your healthy tendencies, and become aware of your unhealthy patterns. Yet again, do not take this on as your identity. If anything, it will help you understand that you are not alone and that you are not weird or broken or misfit, that there is plenty of logical explanation to your feelings and thought patterns. This alone will help you move in the right direction to a more fulfilled and balanced life.
Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you've learned a lot of new strategies. Be sure to check out the notes below this episode for additional resources and tools mentioned in today's show. I would love to keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts and takeaways with me on social media channels wherever you are. And do not forget to tag me. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, and I will see you on the next episode. If this podcast has helped you even a little bit, please leave a review and subscribe so that we can help spread the message together.